Hate non-fiction writing? Well, you're not going to want to miss this video. This is where I go through how I approach non-fiction writing and show you a level 9 article. So this prompt is really similar to one that came up on the GCSE a few years back about fast fashion. The reading had been about child labour and childhood sweets, I think it was. Anyways, they were asked to write about fast fashion and how it may cause issues for the environment, and also how it's not good because of child labour too. So this one's slightly different to the one that was actually on the paper, but I'm going to talk you through it. So when we're planning non-fiction writing, we're always thinking about the path, the purpose, why are we writing, the audience, who are we writing for, and the form, how. And the how is it speech? Is it an article? Is it a blog? Is it a letter? All of those things. So this is how I organise my essay, and this is how I'd plan as well. I'd put a few different notes around each of these 5 sections. So your introduction in your full essay is going to be about 3 or 4 sentences. You need to refer back to the question. Your first point will be 6 to 8 sentences, perhaps more if you're aiming for those higher grades. Your second point, 6 to 8 again. Third point, 6 to 8 again. You are going to be dealing with counter arguments as well in these, talking about the other side and maybe coming up with the reasons why you think the other side is not relevant. And then a conclusion in 3 to 4 sentences. And again, you need to refer back to the question. So you were asked to write an article about fast fashion and how it is a problematic, how it's problematic because it causes so much wastage, how it means that it links to child labour, and how we become a society that just buys really. So I'm going to talk you through this. So I've got my headline there. My headline is 101 Shades of Grey. Then we've got what we call the strap, the subheading to the headline. Fast fashion and its flaws are not black and white. And then the byline is basically who the article's by, and it's by me, Michelle Haskew. So let's see how I started this. Do you enjoy a weekend trip to the Trafford Centre? Do you browse online stores for the latest trends? Have you got a wardrobe that's full to bursting? The issue of cheap clothes, throwaway culture, and the link with child labour is one that is highly problematic. This is a complex issue with no quick fix. Behind the desire to do the right thing, there are other considerations that need to be discussed. So, like I say, we've got a clear headline. The headline has got a play on words. Shades of grey means basically that it's not clear cut or black and white. Also, in the strap, I explain that again, I also include some alliteration, fast fashion flaws. And I've clearly shown that I know that an article needs a heading, a strap, and a byline. Instead of starting with an introduction, I've started with a triple rhetorical question. This uses direct address to hook the reader in and make them think. So it's an immediate hook. And I've used vocabulary such as problematic, complex, and considerations. So this is my first main point. Often, our clothes are made in developing countries, with workers, some children, slaving away in dreadful conditions, earning a pittance and breaking their backs to make the garments that flood our stores and online shops. According to the Clean Clothes campaign, the average garment worker in Bangladesh earns just £78 per month, less than a living wage. In some cases, children as young as 10 have been found sewing labels into clothes destined for high street shelves. Yet still, we are bombarded with adverts, persuasive marketing, emails, influencer hauls, and discount codes. The message is clear: buy more, want more, repeat. So here I've included some emotive language to garner empathy, words like slaving, dreadful, and pittance. I've used alliteration, metaphor, and emotion in the hyperbolic statement that, earning a pittance, breaking their backs to make garments that flood our stores and online shops. Also including the word flood links it to the effect on the environment. I've included some statistics to back it up and make it more authentic. Obviously, I've made up Clean Clothes campaign, and I've made up some figures there, but as long as they're realistic, that's fine. I've also included a triple used in quite a sarcastic way: buy more, want more, repeat. We often have eat, sleep, repeat. This has been used to show the way that we are pressured to buy clothes. Okay, so moving on to my second point. This is sort of summing it up from two sides of the coin, from a retailer such as Primark, who sells cheap clothes, and how they get scrutinised, to a tech giant like Apple, who also, have many of their products made in developing countries, child labour, difficult conditions, but they don't seem to have the same spotlight applied to them. Okay. Retailers like Primark often come under attack, largely because their clothes are cheap and mass produced. However, this particular brand has made commitments to improving working conditions, increasing transparency, and becoming more sustainable. Meanwhile, luxury labels and tech giants like Apple, who rely on outsourced cheap labour, often escape the same level of public scrutiny. It could be argued that there is an unfair spotlight shone on retailers providing clothes for the working class. If we all stopped shopping at Primark, would it solve the problem? The answer is clearly a resounding no. So this paragraph deals with some of the counter arguments, shows how some retailers who have come under criticism have tried to make a difference. It also argues that there is some hypocrisy in criticism of different retailers. It explains that it's not just as simple as stopping buying clothes or stopping using a particular brand. It's uses direct address, collective vocabulary, and sort of tries to show that, this isn't, again, a clear issue. In my final paragraph, what I do is talk about the real long-term effect of us just deciding, okay, we're not going to buy clothes that are made in China or made in Bangladesh or made in India, etc., and how that impacts the people who, yes, are often working in difficult conditions, but rely on those wages to feed their families and survive. Right, let's have a look at this. What would happen to those workers who rely on their wages from garment factories to survive? During the pandemic, when Western demand for clothing dropped over 1 million garment workers in Bangladesh lost their jobs, according to the Workers' Rights Consortium. Some face starvation. Without these jobs, families go hungry. There are far more shades of grey here than it merely being a black and white issue. A certain level of capitalist consumerism will always be necessary to keep global economics afloat. Remove the demand for fast fashion entirely, and many of the world's poorest communities may quite literally have nothing to eat. So again, I've used some emotive language there: starvation, go hungry, have nothing to eat, rely on their wages. I've also included some statistics. The 1 million garment workers backs up the argument, makes it more authentic. It also poses the issue from other sides, and posing it from the side of the workers, but also the fact that, in a capitalist economy, we need people to continue to buy things. And if we just stopped buying, there's going to be issues with, retailers going bust, etc. Just explaining that this is a complex issue. So my conclusion here, and I'm aware that it's longer than 3 or 4 sentences, but this is a level 9 example. I kind of pose a few different questions here, or float some ideas for how this could be resolved. So perhaps the answer lies not in blame, but in balance, in demanding an ethical reform, in committing to buying a little less, but better, a fair wage for a fair product, a cleaner supply chain, fewer impulse buys. These ideals aren't easy to stick to, especially during the cost of living crisis, but progress rarely is. Exploitation is what needs tackling. Exploitation is the root problem. Exploitation is what allows billionaires to get rich on the back of ordinary working people. The truth is, we can't afford to keep pretending that this is someone else's responsibility. We, the consumers, have power. Ask questions, check labels, support ethical brands, challenge the system. Fashion shouldn't cost the earth or someone else's dignity. So again, I've talked about the balance between what we can do, what other retailers can do. I've also explained that the blame for this situation, there's no point blaming. We have to have some balance. So we've used alliteration there for impact, but it also shows a solution that considers both sides. Also, I've repeated a fair wage for a fair product. That adds emphasis and impact to that. There's a lot of short sentences to show some of the things that we can do. A cleaner supply chain, fewer impulse buys. There's a clear call to action. A call to action is asking your reader to do something at the end. Yeah, and it's really important in persuasive writing. And then it ends with quite an emotive line. Fashion shouldn't cost the earth or someone else's dignity. So that talks about the environmental impact and also the impact on people in developing countries who are making our clothes. I have also included we a lot. It shows that collective responsibility, direct address, and shows that, we are all part of trying to find a solution to this. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a subscribe and a thumbs up and a like. Share with anyone who you might think is useful. Coming soon are lots and lots of different writing models. I'm going to be talking you through, other non-fiction pieces like speech, or a letter. Also, I have hundreds, literally, of stories and descriptions to share with you. So, yeah, remember to subscribe, like, and share with anyone who you might find useful. And there's more coming soon.